The road doesn't just carry you in Lagos, it swallows you. If you've ever sat in the driver's seat at 2 a.m., you know that the city changes. The chaotic energy of the yellow danfos and the screaming street hawkers dies down, replaced by a heavy, humid silence that feels like someone holding their breath. My name is Kunle. I've spent 7 years weaving through this concrete labyrinth, earning a living one ride at a time. I used to pride myself on being the night king. No traffic, no heat, just me and the asphalt. But there's a price for owning the night. Sometimes the night decides it owns you instead. It was a Thursday, the kind of night where the sky doesn't just rain, it mourns. The storm had just broken, leaving the air thick enough to chew. The Third Mainland Bridge stretched out ahead of me like the spine of a prehistoric beast, rising out of the black water of the lagoon. My back was a map of knots, and my eyes felt like they were filled with sand. "Just one more," I whispered to the empty car. It's the lie every driver tells himself before the universe decides to teach him a lesson. Then, the ping. It didn't sound like the usual upbeat notification. In the silence of the cabin, it sounded like a funeral bell. I swiped the screen. No photo, no rating history. Just a name that felt cold before I even spoke it. Ada. The GPS pin was dropped dead center on the bridge. Not at the foot of it, not near the descent, but right over the deepest part of the water. Common sense told me to cancel. You don't pick up people on the bridge. In Lagos, that's how you end up in a ditch or a ritualist's basement. But the fare was impossible. It was more than I usually made in a week. Greed is a powerful anesthetic for fear. As I approached the pin, I saw her. She wasn't waving, she wasn't frantic. She was just existing. A slim figure in a white dress that seemed to defy the wind, standing perfectly still against the rusted railing. As I pulled over, the sound of the Atlantic lapping against the concrete pillars seemed to grow louder, a rhythmic thump-thump like a dying heart. "Madam, you order ride?" I called out, my voice cracking. She turned. Her movement wasn't jerky. It was fluid, like ink spreading in water. Her face was beautiful in a way that made my stomach drop, symmetrical, pale, and entirely devoid of life. When she spoke, it didn't sound like it came from her throat. It sounded like it was already inside my head. "I just want to go home," she said. The moment she sat in the back, the temperature didn't just drop, it died. I could see my breath misting in the air, a ghostly fog swirling around the gear shift. My heater was off, the windows were up, but I felt a chill that started in my marrow and walked its way out. We drove in a silence so heavy I could hear the ticking of my own watch. I tried to make small talk, the survival instinct of a man trying to convince himself he's still in the world of the living. "You must have seen many things on this road," she remarked, her eyes fixed on the darkness outside. "Nothing I can't explain," I replied, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. "What if some things do not want to be explained?" she whispered. I glanced at the rearview mirror to check her expression. My heart skipped a beat. The seat was empty, just the grey upholstery and the shadows. I slammed on the brakes, my tires screeching against the damp road. I turned my head, gasping for air, expecting to see a ghost. She was there, sitting perfectly still. "Is something wrong, Kunle?" she asked. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because she hadn't just used my name. She had said it with the familiarity of a debt collector. "How do you know my name?" I hissed, my hand trembling on the steering wheel. She didn't look at me. She looked at her hands. "I know the names of all the men who keep driving." "Do you believe in second chances, Kunle? Or do you only believe in the things you can outrun?" The memory hit me then. It wasn't a slow realization. It was a physical blow. 3 years ago, a night just like this. A sudden thud on the bumper. The panic. The way I looked in the mirror and saw a flash of white in the road, then told myself it was just a discarded bag of trash. I hadn't even tapped the brakes. I had just kept going. "You were not afraid 3 years ago," she said, her voice dropping to a guttural rasp. "You didn't even come down the second time." I tried to scream, but my lungs felt like they were filled with the cold mud of the lagoon. I grabbed the door handle. It wouldn't budge. The locks were dead. The engine died without a sputter.
leaving us in total, suffocating darkness. "You were my last chance," she whispered, leaning forward until I could feel the icy dampness of her breath on my neck. "And now I am yours." The silence in the car wasn't just a lack of sound, it was a physical weight, like being buried under 10 feet of Lagos silt. My ears were ringing with the sound of my own pulse, a frantic rhythmic drumming against my eardrums. I couldn't move, my muscles had turned to lead, my joints frozen by a cold that didn't belong to this world. "I'm sorry," I managed to choke out. The words felt like broken glass in my throat. I didn't see, I didn't think. "You didn't look," she corrected. Her voice was right against my ear now, vibrating through my skull. I could smell it then, not just the rain, but the salt of the lagoon and something metallic, something old and forgotten. "You looked in the mirror, Kunle. You saw me fall, you saw the white dress turn red, and you stepped on the gas."
I squeezed my eyes shut, tears leaking out and freezing on my cheeks. The memory I had buried under 3 years of night shifts and loud radio music came roaring back. The thud, the way the car had lifted slightly as it rolled over something soft. The way I had stared at the red tail lights fading into the mist, convincing myself it was a dog, a goat, a ghost, anything but a human being. "Please," I sobbed. "I have a family. I have people who depend on me." "So did I," Ada whispered. Suddenly, the car began to shake. It wasn't the wind. It felt like hundreds of hands were pressing against the windows, the metal groaning under the pressure. The glass began to frost over from the inside, crystalline patterns spreading like spider webs. I felt a hand, cold, wet, and impossibly thin, rest on my shoulder. I expected to be dragged into the backseat, to be pulled into the dark water of the lagoon. I waited for the end. I waited for the debt to be collected in full. Instead, the pressure vanished. The car rocked once, violently, and then settled. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was empty. I opened my eyes. The frost on the windows were melting into long, weeping streaks. I looked into the rearview mirror. The seat was empty. No shadow, no Ada. Just a dark, damp patch on the upholstery where she had been sitting. The engine roared to life on its own, the sudden sound making me jump so hard I hit my head on the roof. The headlights cut through the gloom, revealing the empty stretch of the Third Mainland Bridge. No bodies, no ghosts, just the endless asphalt. My phone buzzed on the mount. Trip completed. Fare, 50,000 Naira. Rating, 5 stars. The amount was impossible. It was a king's ransom for a 10-minute nightmare. I drove the rest of the way home in a trance, my hands shaking so badly I could barely keep the car between the lines. I didn't go inside when I reached my house. I sat in the driveway until the sun began to bleed over the horizon, turning the sky a bruised purple. I quit the night shift that morning. I sold the silver sedan a week later, practically giving it away to a dealer who didn't ask why I looked like I was haunted. But you can't sell a memory, and you can't outrun the bridge. A month later, driven by a compulsion I couldn't name, I returned to the bridge. This time, it was midday. The sun was scorching, the traffic was a cacophony of horns and shouting, and the water of the lagoon sparkled innocently. I walked to this spot, the exact spot where I had picked her up. The railing was rusted, battered by years of salt air. I leaned over, looking down at the water, and there, etched into the metal with something sharp, something that must have taken hours of agonizing effort, was her name, Ada. Underneath it was a date, the date of my accident 3 years ago. And under that, a new set of numbers. It was today's date. I backed away, my heart hammering against my ribs. I felt the eyes of the city on me. I felt the road watching me back. As I turned to run towards my new car, I glanced at a passing bus. In the reflection of its dirty windows, for just a fraction of a second, I didn't see myself. I saw a woman in a white dress, standing right behind me, her hand reaching out for my shoulder. I don't drive at night anymore. I don't even like to be awake when the sun goes down. People tell me I'm lucky. They see the money in my bank account, the 50,000 that never disappeared, and they think I hit the lottery. But every time I look in a mirror, every time I see a flash of white in the corner of my eye, I know the truth. The debt wasn't paid, it was just deferred. So I ask you again, if you're driving late tonight and your phone pings, if you see a woman in white standing where no one should be, will you stop? Or will you keep driving and hope she doesn't decide to hit a ride in your conscience instead?
because Ada is still waiting for her last chance and she knows your name too.